All right, question number 7. We have 6 parts. Violent crimes include rape, robbery, assault, and homicide. We got a following summary of violent crime rate for all states in a country in a certain year. We're going to complete parts A through D. So we're given Q1, Q2, and Q3. And A wants us to interpret the results. So each Q is a quartile, tells you what percentage of the data are below. So 25% is below this, 50% is below this number, 75% below that number, and then the other section will be 100% or below the max. So each of these, this one says 75% of violent crime rate, that is at this much or less, and that's not correct. It's going to be 75% would be more than that, but that's going to be the wrong one. So B says 25% of a state violent crime, 272.8, that matches, or less. Okay, so that looks good. 50% violent crime or less between that number. Okay, and then 75%, 529.7. Okay, so that looks good. This one, 25% or more, so that's going to be wrong. So B is going to be our best answer choice. B, part B says interpret the interquartile range. Okay, the interquartile range, which we denote IQR, okay, from the text, is Q3 minus Q1. So we will take the third quartile, subtract the first quartile, and that will give us the middle 50%. So I'm going to pull up calculator and we're going to compute the interquartile range. So I'm going to do 529.7. Uh-oh, hit the wrong button. 529.7. I'm going to subtract Q1, which is 272.8. And that gives us 256.9. 256.9. All right, so we want to interpret what the interquartile range is. So that, again, is the middle 50% of the data. B says middle 50%, but that's not the correct number. C, middle 50% of all observations. Okay, so C. Part C, violent crime rate in a certain state. That year was 1,679, with this being an outlier. So we have 2 boxes, one at the lower fence, the upper fence. So in order to find those fences from the text, we compute the lower fence from Q1 and we subtract 1.5 times the interquartile range, IQR. Okay, so we've computed that already. This will give us the lower outline or lower outlier, the lower fence, and then Q3 we will add to the upper number 1.5 times the IQR, interquartile range, and that will give us the upper limit for an outlier. So anything below here or anything above here will be an outlier. So we're going to compute both of those. So Q1 we have 272.8. We're going to subtract 1.5 times the interquartile range, which is 256.9, and that gives us a negative 112.55. Okay, and then we will compute the upper fence. Recall it's going to be 529.7 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range, which is 2 56.9. And it gives us 915.05. So, and put those negative 112.55 and 915.05. Violent crime rate in a certain state was 1,679, which has been outlier. So, according to our offenses, the 1,600 is far surpasses our fence. So yes, this number would be an outline. Yes, it's greater than the upper fence. All right, part 6. Do you believe the distribution to be skewed or symmetric? So you find the distance between these numbers. So if I was to just make a number line that was like drawing the scale, or I could just do some math with it, let's say that this was 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So if I look at this, let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 500. You can really just subtract the numbers, but I'm going to do it based on the scale. So the Q1, the 270 would be about right here. This would be Q1. We can see how spread out they are. Q2 is going to be a little bit below 400, so let's call this one Q2. So the middle. And then Q3 is going to be 500 and something. A little bit above 5 1/4. Q3. If you look at the spread between Q2 and Q3 and compare that with the spread between Q1 and Q2, the spread is much bigger on the upper end. You can also find that out by subtracting those numbers. There's going to be a greater difference between Q2 and Q3 than Q1 and Q2. So based on just that, we would think that this data would be skewed to the right because there's a bigger spread here. Based on that, we would estimate this to be skewed to the right because of the spread there.